So let's talk about something very near and dear to my heart that starts with a D and ends with an S. Or well, actually I don't know how to spell Dylan Strome apparently. It ends with an E. It starts with a, okay. So how about we talk about something very near and dear to my heart that starts with a D and ends with an E. Dylan Strome. I don't really know what to say about Dylan. I mean, this is the second time that I've really been disappointed regarding him. And at this point, I just kind of don't know what to say. This time last year, actually more before it, actually a lot more before, the season had not even started last year, I spent $200 on a jersey that said Strome on the back with a number 20, and I thought, wow, you know, this kid's definitely gonna make the roster. I'm gonna spend money on this. And he didn't make the roster. So I thought, hey, you know, one dominant year in Erie, he's the captain now, you know, he's going to come back and he's going to do great. This year I'm like, hey, I'm going to take this jersey out of retirement and I'm going to be able to wear it to Coyotes games, whatever Coyotes games I actually go to, and I'm going to be like, yeah, this is my boy, he's my boy, I spent money on this and I really care about him and like he deserves to play. And so I thought, hey, yeah, you know, this is his year. Dylan Strome had every opportunity and chance to make the team. He was very able to. I mean, there's nothing actually wrong with Dylan. I mean, he's third overall. It's not like he's like Matt Cook or something and we just don't want him in the league. No, I mean, he's a good player. He almost got the scoring title 2 years in a row, but was beat out by who? Oh, that's right, the London Knights, who happen to be the most dominant team in the entire OHL and CHL. And I don't know about previous years and how it's been in the past, but I'm pretty sure they're probably one of the most dominant teams to ever be in the juniors. So Dylan's not a bad player by any means, so I thought, hey, yeah, he's gonna make it this year. But when he started getting scratched game after game after game after game, I got the idea. After he was scratched about 3 or 4 times, I said, hey, either you trade him or you throw him down to Erie. Like, it's one of 2 options. What you gonna do? Yep, obviously the Coyotes. I mean, Chaika probably doesn't want to trade him. I don't know about Tippett, though. He probably feels like he wants to trade him because he ain't treating this kid well, but that's on another point. All of a sudden, I pull out my phone and I'm like, oh yeah, I got a notification from the Score. It's probably about Pekka Rinne letting up a goal like he always does. Or maybe it's about Mitch Marner doing something really great, because I have Marner notifications. Like, who shouldn't? Who doesn't? Like, everybody should. But no, it says, oh, Dylan Strome sent back to Erie. Oh, really? You couldn't have told me this, like, 3 months ago? You know, like, when the Erie season started? And we all knew this was coming. We knew Dylan Strome wasn't going to make it after I don't know how to feel. I say one thing and then I say another thing and they really conflict, and in long story short, I'm upset that Dylan's not playing. The only other option the Coyotes had besides sending Strome back down to Erie was to keep him up and burn a year of his contract, which burning a year of the contract is really not that big of a deal. I don't know why the Coyotes would really care that much about it. But what would be a big deal is that they would burn that year by having him probably only play about 40 games. Considering how many games into the season? Let's check. 17. We are 17 games into the season and Dylan's only played 7. I mean, that's your 3rd overall pick. It's only going to get worse from here, from when he's not doing that great and then other people not start doing great. I mean, you're really going to have a lot of issues going on at once, and who's going to take the brunt of it? Dylan Strome is going to take the brunt of it. Max Domi doesn't do good. You're not going to punish Domi. You're going to say, hey, Dylan, you know what? We can't scratch Max. We're going to put somebody else in the lineup to shake things up. And guess what? You're going to be the one to be taken out and sit up in that press box. So while it's a bad idea that they send him back down to Erie, I sort of prefer it because I wouldn't really want to have Dylan Strome just, you know, sitting up in that press box just watching and being like, wow, let me go play Candy Crush, or let me go try to reinstall Flappy Bird and try to... That is so old. Why did I even say that? It doesn't make any sense. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know how I feel about Dylan Strome. When it comes down to it, this was probably the best option that they had because of the stupid rules that come with the AHL that he's not old enough to play yet, which very, very dumb. I don't like that idea. In theory, it's smart. In theory, on paper, actually. In theory, it's smart. On paper, it's actually pretty stupid and it's pretty actually frustrating. So I hope after this, hopefully the NHL will look at it and be like, you know what, maybe Because kids at this rate, the prospects are so good at such a young age. I mean, you're drafting kids, I would say, you know, let's go back to Mitch Marner, because I love Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner was so good. I mean, let's say he was pretty much almost able to play at the NHL level at 18. Now, let's say instead of sending him back down to London, because I don't think Mitch, much like Dylan, has nothing to gain in juniors. You send Mitch Marner back down, you don't want to send him to London. Well, actually, this is kind of a crazy long explanation involving Mitch Marner that really deserves no reason. Long story short, Dylan's good enough. He's too good for juniors, but maybe he's not good enough for the NHL. So we need to make an exception to where he can go play in the AHL. Because there's so many players nowadays that are developing at such a fast pace that they're outgrowing juniors before they're growing into being in the NHL. Which I think is a problem with the juniors that you don't really face with the NCAA, because the NCAA, I should say, actually they're a little more defensive and they're more men, I would say, than boys. Because the problem is in the juniors, you can have kids as young as 16, which, you know, if you're playing against a bunch of 16-year-olds, it's not going to be the same as playing against Kopitar and Getzlaf. I mean, they haven't been 16 in like 40 years. Come on. So I think this is a terrible, while there's no good actual choice for Strome at this point, actually keeping him up would have been a good choice. I don't know. Given the circumstances, I'm really glad they sent him down, because yes, he was going to be scratched for the rest of the season, and it was going to be really frustrating, and he really wasn't going to grow, and he was probably going to be a bratty teenager like we all are going to be when given a circumstance like that. It was for the best. Him being sent to Erie really was for the best. But this is how I see it. Either Dylan Strome runs the Coyotes, or the Coyotes ruin him. And this is what I mean by that. First off, I think the big issue is Dave Tippett. Dave Tippett is not the kind of guy, he's not going to be your John Cooper, your Joel Quenneville, anybody who's really good with young guys. I mean, they did so good with the triplet line in Tampa a few years ago. Like, we don't have that here in Arizona. Tippett's not that kind of guy where he's comfortable with the speed game that apparently Pittsburgh invented when they won the Stanley Cup. Even though teams have been playing that game for, I don't know, like, however many years. Every team that's pretty much won the Stanley Cup has been a speed team in the past few years. But it's Pittsburgh who did it, so no big deal. Sidney Crosby was part of the speed team, so now it's a big deal. So Tippett's not going to be that kind of guy, and that's very in a lot of contrast to Dylan Strome. Dylan Strome is going to be a speed guy. He's going to play like Jonathan Toews. As much as I hate to make the comparison, I don't want to put that pressure on the kid. He's going to play similar to Toews. If you've seen him in like the World Juniors, you know exactly what I'm talking about.